Alright, let's talk about food. No, not your sad desk lunch or that artisanal, deconstructed avocado toast that costs more than your monthly streaming subscriptions. We're going way back. Back to a time when dinner wasn't just about satisfying your hunger, but about not getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger while you foraged for berries. Welcome to FoodSaga. Like, subscribe, and comment for more. Let's start. This is the story of how grub, chow, and the occasional questionable root vegetable literally built human society from the ground up. It's a tale of how sharing a mammoth steak was the original team-building exercise, and how your you get the picture. Grandma's secret berry mashing technique was the OG cultural IP. So grab a snack, preferably one you didn't have to wrestle a giant sloth for. Let's dig into how food turned a bunch of scattered, grunting hominids into the complex, food-obsessed societies we are today. Let's start with the basics. Sharing is caring, especially when not caring means you starve alone in a cave. Early humans quickly figured out that eating together was a pretty solid survival strategy. Picture this, you're OG. You've spent all day trying to catch a scrawny prehistoric rabbit and failed miserably. Meanwhile, your neighbor, Grog, somehow managed to trip over a massive, delicious-looking tuber. If you're both eating alone, you starve and Grog gets sick of eating the same bland root for a week. But if you start sharing your meals, something magical happens. The act of breaking bread, or, more accurately, gnawing on a roasted haunch of something vaguely deer-like around a crackling fire, wasn't just about filling bellies. It was the prehistoric version of a trust fall. When you share your food, you're making a statement. I trust you not to poison me or club me over the head for my last piece of meat. This shared vulnerability built the first, most fundamental social bonds. It transformed a loose collection of individuals into a cooperative group. Every shared meal was a negotiation, a social contract written in grease and smoke. It reinforced the idea that we are in this together, and that our collective survival depends on this communal act. It was the original social network, powered by protein and fire, where the only likes were appreciative grunts and not having to fight off a hyena by yourself for the leftovers. Once everyone agreed that eating together was a good idea, the next logical step was figuring out who did what. It's wildly inefficient for everyone to do everything. You can't hunt a mammoth, gather berries, find edible plants, keep the fire from going out, and watch the kids all at the same time. You'd be terrible at all of it. So, early humans, in their infinite, survival-driven wisdom, invented the ultimate group project, the division of labor. This is where we see the first whispers of social structure, all organized around the dinner menu. You had your hunters, the brave, probably slightly reckless ones who went after the big, dangerous, protein-packed animals. This was high-risk, high-reward work that required teamwork, strategy, and the ability to throw a pointy stick with some degree of accuracy. Then you had your gatherers, who were the backbone of the entire operation. They were the botanists, the pharmacists, and the nutritionists of the Paleolithic era, possessing an encyclopedic knowledge of which plants would feed you and which would, kill you. They provided the consistent, reliable calories that kept everyone going between big, exciting mammoth kills. And finally, you had the cooks, the alchemists who turned raw, often tough ingredient into something digestible and, dare we say, tasty. This wasn't just about making food taste better. It was about unlocking nutrients, killing pathogens, and making food last longer. Each role was vital. The hunters couldn't survive on meat alone, and the gatherers needed that protein. This system of specialized roles, all revolving around the food supply, created a web of interdependence. It was the first org chart, a blueprint for teamwork that taught us how to rely on each other's skills. Society wasn't born in a boardroom, it was forged in the collaborative, desperate, and delicious quest for the next meal. As groups got better at not starving, they started developing something a bit more refined: culture. And what's at the heart of every culture? You guessed it, food. The specific ways a group found, prepared, and ate their food became a powerful marker of their identity. Think about it. Your tribe's secret for smoking fish so it lasts through the winter wasn't just a practical skill, it was your secret. It was a piece of proprietary knowledge passed down through generations, a culinary fingerprint that distinguished your people from the weirdos over the hill who just ate their fish raw. Recipes became oral traditions, stories told through ingredients and techniques. The blend of herbs your grandmother used, the specific way your family fermented grain, or the method for roasting a wild boar, these weren't just instructions. They were a declaration of this is who we are. They connected the living to their ancestors and reinforced a sense of belonging. When a young hunter learned the sacred way to track and kill a bison, he wasn't just learning to hunt. He was being initiated into the cultural identity of his people. When a child learned to distinguish the sweet elderberry from the deadly nightshade, she was inheriting generations of accumulated wisdom. Food became a language, a way to communicate history, values, and a shared way of life without a single written word. It was the original made-in label, a testament to a tribe's ingenuity and a symbol of its unique place in the world. Of course, humans have never been content to just eat asterisk. We have to make a whole production out of it. As soon as we had a reasonably steady food supply, we started using it for more than just sustenance. Food became central to our rituals, celebrations, and spiritual lives. A good harvest wasn't just a relief, it was a reason to throw a massive party, a festival to thank the gods, the spirits, or just plain old good luck. These celebrations, centered around a feast, were crucial for community cohesion. They were a time for storytelling, for reinforcing social bonds, and for letting off a little steam. Think of the first Thanksgiving, but with more animal skins and probably better dancing. Important life events, births, deaths, marriages, a young person's first successful hunt tour, all marked with specific foods and ceremonial meals. These rituals gave life a rhythm and a sense of meaning beyond the daily grind of survival. Food was also seen as a bridge to the spiritual world. Offerings of the best grain, the fattest animal, or the first fruits of the season were made to appease gods and ensure future prosperity. In many cultures, certain foods were considered sacred, imbued with divine power, or reserved for special ceremonies. Sharing a ritual meal wasn't just about sharing calories. It was about sharing a spiritual experience, reaffirming a collective belief system, and connecting the mundane act of eating to the great, mysterious cosmos. Food became the centerpiece of our efforts to understand our place in the universe. So from sharing a meal to building a civilization, it all comes back to what's on the menu. The simple, pressing need to find, prepare, and distribute food laid the groundwork for everything we now call society. The cooperation required for a successful hunt or a bountiful harvest was the seed from which larger communities grew. Once we mastered the art of food production, settling down became a viable option. Why roam when you can grow your own food? This led to the first villages. With villages came surplus food, and with surplus food came the most wonderful and terrible invention of all, trade. Suddenly, your tribe's amazing smoked fish was a valuable commodity you could trade with the grain-growing village down the river. These early trade networks were the arteries of the ancient world, pumping not just goods, but ideas, technologies, and cultural practices between communities. This complex web of cooperation, specialization, and exchange, all built on the foundation of a stable food supply, is what allowed the first complex societies and eventually the first cities to emerge. It's a direct line from figuring out how to share a roasted gazelle to building the pyramids. The entire sprawling, complicated, magnificent, and often ridiculous edifice of human civilization can be traced back to those fundamental challenges of the dinner plate. In the end, the story of society is a story written in recipes, harvest cycles, and the remnants of ancient feasts. From the first shared campfire meal that built trust, to the division of labor that created our first teams, to the cultural recipes that defined who we are, food has been the silent architect of our world. It's the force that turned us from solitary scavengers into cooperative builders, laying the foundation for villages, trade, and everything that followed. So the next time you sit down for a meal, whether it's a Michelin star masterpiece or a microwave burrito, take a second. Give a little nod to OG, Grog, and all the countless ancestors who figured out that the path to civilization wasn't paved with gold, but with bones, seeds, and the incredible, world-changing power of a shared meal. They didn't just learn how to eat, they learned how to eat together, and in doing so, they cooked up the very recipe for humanity itself. Thanks for watching Food Saga. Like, subscribe, and see you next time.